I have one question for you right now. What are you gonna do with this moment? What are you gonna do with this one life that has been given to you? I do know this. I know that you cannot change the past or the path that got you here. So apparently the only way to get here today is to have what happened to you happen. And so since you can't change the past, the reality is, so what do you want your life to look like? Ready for this? From now on. Because just let it sink in. From now on, here's the truth, that's all you have. What do you want your from now on life to look like? And the only person that gets to determine like that from now on life, what that looks like, is you. What are you gonna do with this one life that you've been given? And if your life ended right now and you look back over the life that you've been given, is that the life you wanna look back on and say, that's my life? Or do you want something to change?
What happens when I decide for myself that I'm gonna do something different? I'm gonna have setbacks, I know. But if I'm feeling bad, that doesn't mean I'm doing bad. That doesn't mean I am bad. That doesn't mean that I can't still take some action. Because yeah, nothing changes if nothing changes, man. You know, we'll sit around forever wondering, well, what if I, who would I, you know, would I be able to do it? Would I, you don't know. Until you say, yeah, I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna take action. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And I'm not preaching at you, I just want to remind you, because you know, I've spent a lot of time in my life sitting around wanting things to change. And not being able to make them change, and not thinking I could. And I wish somebody had told me that earlier sometimes. That in order for something to change, there needs to be a change.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. Change starts one step at a time. It's time for me to take a step towards freedom. And friends, the enemy of change is tomorrow. Yeah, I'll get to that tomorrow. Tomorrow's a great day to start dealing with that. Lord, I promise I'll change. I'll call that person. I'll take a step. Whatever, Lord, I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow. But today is the day. Don't start tomorrow. Start now.
You can't wait for everything to be perfect to start with. I want everything to be perfect before something happens. I want everything to be, look, as soon as everything is all lined up, it's all real. As soon as these things line up, that's what I've done. My whole life has been like that. Inside of me, it has been, as soon as it's all lined up, I'm going to show you myself. I can't wait, man. It's not all I'm never going to get to that where everything's okay, where everything looks a certain way. And in the meantime, I'm burning the best time I do have available. I'm burning that candle up. I'm burning this candle down, and I'm saying as soon as it gets bright enough or warm enough in here, I'm gonna show up. But the candle's getting smaller. You can't wait for everything to be perfect to start living your life.
Now, I think what he's getting at here is that there is a temptation for all of us to kind of fixate ourselves on the destination and lose sight of the journey. If I could just get this project done, if I can just get this area cleaned, if I can just organize this part of my life, then I'll be the kind of person I want to be. There is a temptation for all of us to fixate on the destination and miss out on the journey. It's not the destination, it's the journey. You see, for some of us, we have these massive high goals. We become so fixated on loving the finish line, but not actually enjoying the race. and enjoying the process that it takes for us to get there. Because change will come over time. And they won't happen until you and I actually engage the hard things that we need to do. So for some of us today, be thinking about, man, what's the hard thing? What's the hard thing that you're actually avoiding? You should probably start in small ways doing that first. That can become the first shift that you do. Some of us have big goals, big desires, big changes we want to make. Start with something small. Consider what is the next step, because honestly, the first step is always the hardest step. So take the first step in a small but real kind of way.
Don't be afraid to be a beginner. That's the number one reason I think so many people never change. But let me just say this. We are not saved because of what we know. We are saved because of who we know.
We're terrible at resolutions because we want to make massive leaps toward change instead of small, consistent steps. But then what happens is the amount of change I commit to is so overwhelming that I just quit. Well, if you've been there, you know that's where you get like really, really stuck. And if you're not careful, that feeling that like you're just not the kind of person you thought you'd be by now, it can become so defeating that you start to think about quitting. Jesus never expected, go read the book. He never commanded that you need to change overnight. He commanded that you go on a journey with him. Like Jesus knows that your journey will take time, and he knows that you'll walk a lot of rough road. All that he's asking is that when you fall down, will you let him pick you back up? And then he's asking that you put one foot in front of the other. Just keep walking with him, small step after small step. Here's a metaphor for what I'm talking about. It's kind of like when I taught my kids to ride their bikes, okay? It's like I never got furious when they fell over, never, right? Because I know they're learning, right? And I know it's not intuitive yet. And I know they're gonna be awkward at first and for a long while. And so I don't get mad when they fall over. I'm just proud that they're out there and giving it a go. And in fact, I definitely feel pride, like those moments where you let go of the back of the seat and they actually ride for a few feet. But I think I feel more proud whenever they bit it and they really bang up their knee, but then they brush themselves off and they get back on the bike. All right? And so why do we think that our perfect Father, God, would ever look at you and go, you know what? If you really were a good son of mine, or if you really were a good daughter of mine, you would be cleaned up by now. It sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud, but a lot of us are living our spiritual lives that way. With this like needless weight of guilt and shame on our shoulders, constantly disappointed in ourselves because we've convinced ourselves that we're constantly disappointing Jesus, but it's just not true.
You do not clean yourself up to come to Jesus. You come as you are. Let me ask you a question. You have to get cleaned up to go take a shower. So no, you get in the shower and that cleans you up. Same with Jesus. You don't try to clean up your life and be a better person in order that you can be with Jesus. You just be with Jesus, you follow Jesus. How about this? If anything needs to get cleaned up in your life, the two of you will work that out and he will point that out to you and you will actually agree with him and then you'll clean it up together. How about that? He came to us as we are and he still does that today.
Where do you think that Jesus expected you to be today on your journey? Like, where do you think that Jesus looked at you and like, I expected you to be here by this day? The answer is he expected you to be exactly where you're at today. He's got all of time laid out in front of him. You've never caught him off guard. He's not confused. He's not disappointed. Jesus knew how long your journey would take, and he knew what pace you would set, and he chose to love and die for you and go on a long walk with you. So you can have the freedom to accept that life is just a journey, all right? Small, consistent steps, not massive leaps toward change. You're free to acknowledge that a life of faith takes time. So give yourself grace and be patient and stay consistent.
You know what it takes to be a follower of Jesus? One step. All right? My life needs to change. But please hear this. Spiritual formation and changing any part of your life of importance, it's really slow. We say this all the time. Growth takes time. There is no fast track. There's no microwave version of being a follower of Jesus. There's not a fast track to having the mind of Christ. It's going to take some time. Let me just throw this in. So give yourself a break. The only person that's putting pressure on you is you. Jesus is so patient.
And just ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to become? Do I want to become a more prayerful person? Do I want to become a more kind person? Do I want to become just a little less anxious in a very anxious world? Yes. So what are the small things I can do that will help cultivate that end result? But for some of us, the temptation is pulling at us right now that, man, this will just cost me too much to change and to start these practices. And that's very true. But I want you to think about this. What will it cost you to not change? Yes, it costs us a lot to change. Jesus said, take up your cross and follow him. But how much more will it cost us if we don't change? If we don't do the work to actually change?
I want you to ask yourself, will I change or will I die? Some people would rather die than change. Change is painful. But what is more painful than growth and change is staying in a place where you don't belong. I love what the words of Socrates. He said that the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. There are some people, when they need to change, they keep bringing up your history. It's not about your history and what you did back there. It's about building the new. We've all made mistakes. God doesn't want to dwell on your mistakes and your failure. That's not what God is into, to try to make you feel guilty and unworthy and trashy and all of that. God's energy is not spent on your past. God says, I have a future for you. I'm building something ahead of you that is going to be greater than what you are. A woman by the name of Jocelyn Murray, she says, it is not triumph which defines a man, but tragedy. Not triumph, not when you're on top of the mountain, but it's how you handle your valleys. She says, triumph always brings out the best in men, but tragedy shows men what they are made of. And so sometimes when you go through difficulty and through hard times, it begins to show you what you are made of. God is saying, you know, I've got something so much greater for you in the future. May I say this to you? God is not, he is concerned with who you are becoming, not who you have been. Why would God waste his time on who you have been? What all you have done wrong in the past? God is concerned with who you are becoming, not who you have been. God sees the best in you. He sees your future. He sees a successful person that has triumphed over something, not locking you in the identity of your past.
All we have is from this point on. What's the point of rethinking your past? Unless you want to learn from it, but there's no need to really rehash it, okay? So all we have is from this point on, and the choice and the decision is, what am I going to do now? What do you want your from now on life to look like?